The Oakland A's, they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3:40 p.m. Eastern first pitch in the desert. The A's are minus 115, totals 8.5, juice to the over. Arizona's minus 105 on the money line themselves. They're also minus $1.70, catching the 1.5 on the run line. Zach Gallen for the D-backs, Jesus Luzardo for Oakland. Luzardo struck out 14 batters in just over 10 innings of work this season. The A's are currently on a 3-game winning streak, and they also won 4 out of their last 5, including a 4-3 win over the Dodgers. The A's are officially 3-1 straight up as the away team, and they cashed in on the run line in 3 out of their 4 road games as well. Oakland's in the top 10 in road scoring, top 10 in road hits. Mark Canha, he's got a 904 OPS with 2 homers and 6 free passes. Meanwhile, Jed Lowry's batting .316 with 4 extra base hits and 8 ribbies. They're taking on an Arizona club who lost 4 out of their last 6, and they're still going to work without their stud, Ketel Marte. The Arizona pitching staff gives up a lot of hits. They're in the bottom 3 in hits allowed, bottom 5 in runs allowed. Zach Allen's making his first start after suffering a hairline fracture in his pitching forearm in spring training. When it comes to total in this one, 4 out of Arizona's last 5 got over the total of 8.5 runs. The D-backs are officially 3-1 to the over at Chase Field. Meanwhile, Oakland saw their last 2 straight get over the 8.5 themselves. 7-4 to the over officially for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus $1.15 and the under 8.5 runs. Next ball game, Mariners Orioles, game 1 of a doubleheader, 4:05 Eastern first pitch. The Baltimore Orioles are minus $1.30, total 6.5, juice to the under. John Means for the O's, Justice Sheffield for Seattle. The Mariners have won 3 out of their last 4 ball games. They currently find themselves 2-1 straight up away from home. The Mariners are in the top 10 in road hits, and they're led by Ty France, who's hitting .324, along with a .910 OPS. Kyle Seager is also batting .314 himself, with a pair of homers and 8 ribbies. They're taking on a Baltimore team who's still winless at Camden Yards. The O's also failed to cover the run line in all 3 of those home losses. These Baltimore hitters currently lead the majors in strikeouts at the plate. Meanwhile, the pitching staff is in the bottom 10 in runs allowed. And they also give up nearly double-digit hits per contest. And despite being a shorter game here in the doubleheader, the Mariners should be able to muster up enough offense to help put this one over the total. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the underdog Seattle Mariners plus $1.10 and the over 6.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Phillies Mets. Another doubleheader here, guys. This is game 1 of their DH, 4:10 Eastern start time in Flushing, Queens. The Mets are minus $1.55 in game 1, total 6.5, juice to the over. Taijuan Walker for the Mets, Chase Anderson for the Phils. And despite getting the loss last week against these very Mets, Chase Anderson had a fairly decent start. He allowed just 2 hits, and he struck out 3 in 5 innings of work. Now, the Phillies are 6-3 straight up on the season, and their pitching staff is in the top 3 in fewest walks allowed on the road. They're taking on a Mets club who lost 2 out of their last 3 themselves, and they're also scoring just 3.2 runs per contest this year, certainly struggling at the plate in the early going here. Now, pitcher Taijuan Walker, he failed to get the W in his season debut. He also walked a pair of batters in 6 innings of work. I'm actually going to lean toward the underdog Philadelphia Phillies, plus 1.5, and the under 6.5 runs. Next ball game, Padres Pirates, 6:35 Eastern start time. The San Diego Padres are minus 235, totals 8 flat. Blake Snell for the Pods, Chad Kuhl for Pittsburgh. Now, Kuhl's 0-1 with a 6.43 ERA and a 1.57 whip. Kuhl's also shown some control issues. He's already walked 8 batters in just 7 innings of work. Now, the Pirates are currently in last place already in the NL Central, and they score just 3.6 runs per contest. They're taking on a stacked Padres team who's undefeated in their 4 road games. They currently lead the majors in runs allowed per contest. They're giving up just 1.5 runs a game when they travel. Now, Blake Snell struck out 16 batters in over 9 innings of work this season. Snell's currently got a 1.86 ERA and a 1.24 whip. The Padres pitching staff allows just 4.5 hits per contest on the road, and they average only 1.7 walks per contest in that same category. Now, total-wise, the Padres are 8-3 to the under for the season. Simply put, nobody can get on base against them. Meanwhile, 3 out of the Pirates' last 4 failed to get over the total of 8 runs themselves. So I'm going to lean toward the San Diego Padres -1.5 and the under 8 runs. Next ball game, Yankees, Blue Jays, 7:07 East. The Toronto Blue Jays are -120, totals 9. Ryu for the Jays, Tyone for New York. Now, Jameson Tyone struck out 7 batters in just over 4 innings of work. He's currently got himself a 3.86 ERA and a .64 whip after a very small sample size. This Yankee pitching staff leads the Bigs in strikeouts. They also walk the least amount of batters over any other team in the majors as well. They're taking on a Toronto Blue Jays squad who's lost 5 out of their last 6. And they currently have a losing record as the home team. They've lost 3 of 4 at TD Park. Now, Hyun-Jin Ryu, he's also 0-1 on the season, and he looks to get his first win after a dozen innings of work already. Now, total-wise, Toronto's gone 70% to the under this season. New York saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the line themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the New York Yankees plus $1 and the under 9 runs. Wow, I guess I forgot to turn the page there. But anyway, next contest, it is going to be Rangers versus the Rays, 7:10 Eastern first pitch. The Rays are -$1.75, totals 8. Yarbrough for the Rays, Gibson for the Rangers. Despite being 1-0 on the season, Kyle Gibson's got himself a 7.11 ERA and a 2.21 whip. The Rangers are on a 4-game losing streak, just 1-3 straight up as the away team. The Rangers are dead last in the majors in runs allowed on the road. They're also striking out 13 times a game at the plate when they travel as well. They're taking on a Tampa squad who seems to be very comfortable at home this year. 3-1 straight up at Tropicana Field. Top 5 in home hits allowed. Despite a bit of a rough start this season, Ryan Yarbrough's had a sub-4 ERA in 2 out of his prior 3 seasons. So we're looking at a guy who's really kind of should be at the pinnacle of his young career. He's right in the swing of things here. Now, total-wise, the Rays are 70% to the over for the entire season. Rangers saw 3 out of their last 4 road games get over the number themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays -$1.75 and the over 8. Next ball game, Marlins Braves, 7:20 Eastern start time. The Atlanta Braves are -$1.65, total 7.5 juice to the over. Max Fried for the Braves, Pablo Lopez for Miami. Now, Lopez has a 1.54 ERA and a .77 whip. The Marlins are also on a 2-game winning streak, with one of those victories coming yesterday against this very Atlanta team. The Marlins are in the top 10 in fewest runs allowed, top 3 in fewest hits allowed. They're taking on an Atlanta team who lost their last 2 straight themselves. They failed to cash in on the run line in 3 out of their last 4 home games. The Braves are scoring just 3.9 runs a game, and they're averaging less than 6.6 hits per contest. Max Fried also comes into this ball game with a 9.00 ERA and a 2.43 whip. Now, total-wise, both teams seem to be having difficulty scoring. Meanwhile, the Marlins saw 5 out of their last 6 stay under the total of 7.5 runs. Miami's officially 3-0 to the under as the away team. I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins +1.5 and the under 7.5. Next matchup, Cubs, Brewers, 7:40 p.m. East. The Milwaukee Brewers are -$1.40, total 7.5. Woodruff for the Brewers. Hendricks for Chicago. Kyle Hendricks is 0-1 on the season. He's walked 4 batters in 9 innings of work. The Cubbies are currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they also dropped 5 out of their last 6. Now, Chicago's biggest problem is at the plate. They're last in the league in scoring, last in hits on average per contest. As a matter of fact, Chicago's averaging less than 4.91 hits per contest, and they're also scoring a measly 2.5 runs per game when they travel. They're taking on a Milwaukee squad who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves, 5-1 straight up in their last 6. The Brewers give up just 3.6 runs a game, and they're in the top 5 in hits allowed per contest. Brandon Woodruff struck out 13 batters in just 11 innings of work, 2.45 ERA, and just a .82 whip. Total-wise, 6 out of these teams' last 10 meetings stayed under the total if you're into historical trends. Chicago's officially 70% to the under for the entire season as well. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers minus $1.40 and the under 7.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Nationals Cardinals, 7:45 Eastern first pitch. The St. Louis Cards are minus $1.20, total 7 juice to the over. Jack Flaherty for the Cards, Steven Strasburg for Washington. Now, Strasburg's yet to give up an earned run on this season. He struck out 8 in just 6 innings and currently has a .50 whip. As bad as the Nats have been this season, they're coming fresh off a 5-2 victory over this very St. Louis team yesterday. The Nationals are also allowing less than 6.2 hits per contest. They're taking on a Cardinals team who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they allowed 23 Wow, let's try that again. Rewind. They're taking on a Cardinals team who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they allowed 23 total runs in those 3 defeats. The Cards have lost 3 of 4 at Busch Stadium, and their pitching staff is walking nearly 5 batters per 9. Jack Flaherty's also walked 6 batters in just over 10 innings of work. He comes into this contest with a 5.23 ERA. Now, total-wise, St. Louis is 60% to the over for the season thus far. Meanwhile, 4 out of Washington's last 7 failed to stay under the total of 7 runs themselves. We're leaning toward yet another underdog here, guys. Might be a little feast or famine here today. I like the Washington Nationals plus $1 and the over 7 runs. Next ball game, probably the game of the day here. Indians, White Sox, 8:10 Eastern start. The Chicago White Sox are the $1.20 favorite at home. Number 6.5 juice to the over. Lucas Giolito for Chicago. Shane Bieber for Cleveland. Now, Bieber's got himself 24 strikeouts already through just over 12 innings pitched. Biebs has a 3.65 ERA and a 1.22 whip. Cleveland's also won 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they lead the majors in hits allowed per contest. The Indians are giving up just 5.1 hits a game, and they allow only 2.8 runs per game. They're taking on a White Sox club who's playing just .500 baseball through 10 contests. They're also in the bottom 10 offensively in hits at home, and they failed to cash in on the run line in 2 out of their last 3 games at Guaranteed Rate Field. And despite a handful of strikeouts for Lucas Giolito, the hard-throwing right-hander comes into today's matchup with a 4.22 ERA. Now, total-wise, Chicago's 3-0 to the under as the official home team, 60% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Cleveland saw 3 out of their last 4 road games stay under the line themselves, 7-2 to the under for the entire year as well. I'm going to lean toward yet another underdog. Give me the underdog Cleveland Indians plus $1 and the under 6.5. Next ball game, Angels, Royals, 8:10 Eastern start time. The LA Angels are minus 135, totals 8.5. Dylan Bundy for Los Angeles, Danny Duffy for Kansas City. Now, Danny Duffy had a terrific start against Cleveland last week, outdueling one of the best defensive clubs in the game. Duffy's yet to give up an earned run. He comes into this contest today with a 1-0 record and a .83 whip. The Royals lineup is also in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in hits. Whit Merrifield's batting .375, with 3 homers and double-digit RBI. The outfielder also has 23 total bases and a 1.124 OPS. Meanwhile, Michael Taylor is also batting .333 for Kansas City as well. Pair of homers and 17 total bases for Taylor. They're going up against an Angels club who gives up a bunch of runs, and they walk a lot of batters too. LA's in the bottom 3 in the league in runs allowed, and they walk nearly 5 batters per contest. Bundy's also posted an ERA of 4 or above in 4 out of his prior 5 seasons. Now, scoring-wise, the Angels are 3-1 to the over as the away team. They've also gone 60% to the over thus far for the year. Meanwhile, the Royals are 4-0 to the over at Kauffman Stadium. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Kansas City Royals plus $1.15 and the over 8.5. Next ball game, still in that 8 o'clock slate here. I'm talking about the Tigers versus the Astros, 8:10 p.m. East. The Houston Astros are minus 190, numbers 9. Jake Odorizzi for the Stros, Matthew Boyd for Detroit. Boyd's 1-1 with a 2.13 ERA and a 1.11 whip. Boyd's also recorded double-digit strikeouts in just over a dozen innings pitched. The Tigers actually beat Houston yesterday at Minute Maid Park by the final of 6-2. They're taking on a Houston club here today who lost 3 of 4 at home this season. The Stros are also just 1-3 against the run line on their home field, and they currently find themselves in the middle of a 3-game losing streak. The Astros score just 3.2 runs per contest as the official home team. Now, total-wise, Houston's 3-1 to the under on their home field. Detroit saw 3 out of their last 4 road games stay under the line as well. I'm going to lean, the Tigers are also 70% to the under for the entire season as well. I'm going to lean toward the Detroit Tigers plus 1.5 and the under 9. Next ball game, Reds-Giants, 9:45 Eastern first pitch. The San Francisco Giants are minus $1.20, total 7.5. Kevin Gausman for the Giants, Luis Castillo for Cincinnati. Despite some shaky numbers here, Castillo actually had a great outing his last time on the bump. He pitched 7 scoreless innings. The Reds have also won 7 out of their last 9 ball games this year, and they currently lead the Bigs in scoring. Nick Castellanos is batting .317 with 4 homers and a 1.056 OPS. Meanwhile, Tyler Naquin, he's hit 5 home runs on the season himself. The outfielder also batted in 14. He has a 1.195 OPS as well. The Reds are averaging nearly double-digit hits a game. They're taking on a San Francisco squad who was actually shut out yesterday by this very Cincy team. The Giants have really struggled to get on the board. They're in the bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 3 in hits. The Giants are actually averaging just 2.7 runs per contest on their home field. And when it comes to the total in this one, Cincy does have the capability to put this one over themselves. They're officially 70% to the over for the entire season. Hey, why not? Another dog. Give me the Cincinnati Reds plus $1 and the over 7.5. And with that, guys, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Rockies versus the Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern start time. The LA Dodgers are minus 340, totals 8, juice to the under. Trevor Bauer for the Dodgers, Antonio Senzatella for Colorado. Senzatella's got a 5.56 ERA and a 1.41 whip. Colorado's currently on a 3-game losing streak. They scored a total of just 4 runs in those 3 losses. Now, Owings is still on the IL with a thumb injury. The Rockies are currently winless in 3 tries on the road this season, and they find themselves with a .300 win percentage overall for the year. They're taking on a Dodger team who's a perfect 3-0 at Dodger Stadium, 8-2 straight up overall for the year. The Dodgers are allowing just 1.6 runs per contest on their home field. And they got Trevor Bauer on the mound here today, who's mowed down 20 batters in just 13 innings of work. Bauer comes into this contest with a .69 whip as well. This LA pitching staff is also walking just .6 batters per 9 at Dodger Stadium as well. Very good command. No free passes if you're playing the Dodgers in their home stadium. Now, total-wise, 2 out of LA's 3 home games did stay under the number, 60% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Rockies are 3-0 to the under as the away team, 7-3 to the under for the entire year as well. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the LA Dodgers -1.5 and the under 8 runs. With that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the Oakland A's -115 over 8.5. Seattle +110 over 6.5 in Game 1 of the doubleheader. Philadelphia Phillies +1.5 under 6.5 in Game 1 of their doubleheader as well. San Diego -1.5 under 8 runs. New York Yankees +$1 under 9. Tampa Bay -175 over 8. Miami +1.5 under 7.5. Milwaukee -140 under 7.5. Washington +$1 over 7 runs. Cleveland +$1 under 6.5. Kansas City +$1.15 over 8.5. Detroit +1.5 under 9 runs. Cincinnati +$1 over 7.5. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are hitting at 65% in our last $17.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 62% in our last 29 crowd pleaser teasers on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers -1.5 and the under 8 runs. With that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do get a package here today, just keep in mind you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of April. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.